I was sitting at my kitchen table, the same one where I'd served my son Tommy his favourite blueberry pancakes every Sunday for 30 years, when the bank manager called. Her voice was tight, like she was reading from a script she didn't believe. "Mrs. Evelyn Harper, I'm sorry, but your son has submitted documents declaring you mentally unfit to manage your accounts. He's requested full control as your power of attorney." I froze, my coffee mug halfway to my lips, the steam curling like a ghost in the morning light. Mentally unfit? Me? I'm 76, sharp as the day I taught Tommy how to tie his shoes, still balancing my checkbook by hand, still driving my old Buick to church every Sunday. But my own son, my only child, the boy I raised through scraped knees and broken hearts, stood in a bank lobby and told them his mother's mind was gone. He didn't ask for a loan, didn't borrow a dime. He wanted everything. My savings, my house, the inheritance I'd saved for my grandkids. And he thought I'd never find out. Oh, Tommy, you underestimated your mother. The day I walked into that bank with a lawyer and a hidden recording, I made sure he'd never forget it. I'm Evelyn Harper, and this is my story. It's not an easy one, but it's true, and I'm telling it to you like I'm sitting right across from you in my living room with my old tabby cat, Muffin, purring on the couch. I want you to know every detail, the heartbreak, the lies, the love I still have for my son, even after what he did. So, grab a cup of tea, settle in, and let me take you back to how it all began. The kitchen table, early autumn 2025. The morning was crisp, the kind of autumn day in Ohio where the leaves turn gold and the air smells like apples. I was in my kitchen, the one with the yellow curtains I sewed myself back in '98 when my husband George was still alive. The sunlight spilled across the linoleum, warming my hands as I flipped through my old recipe book, planning Thanksgiving dinner. It was September 2025, and I was already dreaming of the grandkids' faces when they'd taste my pecan pie. That's when the phone rang. The bank's number flashed on the caller ID, and I thought, oh, maybe it's about the new debit card I ordered. "Mrs. Harper," the manager Susan said, her voice shaky. "I need to inform you about a serious matter." My heart did a little skip, like it knew trouble was coming. She explained how Tommy, my 48-year-old son, had walked into the First National Bank downtown with a stack of papers. He'd told them I was confused and forgetful and unable to make sound decisions. He had a document, signed by a doctor I'd never met, claiming I was slipping into dementia. My accounts, $230,000 in savings, the deed to this house George and I paid off in '92, and the trust fund for my grandkids Lily and Max were to be handed over to him, effective immediately. I sat there, staring at the chipped edge of my table, where Tommy used to carve his initials with a butter knife when he was 10. I could still see the faint TH scratched into the wood. My hands trembled, not from age, but from the kind of hurt that cuts deeper than a knife. Tommy didn't call me, didn't visit to talk it over. He went behind my back to a bank where I've been a customer for 50 years and told them I was losing my mind. I wanted to scream, to cry, but instead I just sat there, listening to Susan apologize, her voice fading into the hum of my old refrigerator. Why would he do this? I kept asking myself that question as I walked to the backyard, where my rose garden bloomed, the last of George's red roses still clinging to life. I raised Tommy alone after George passed in 2003. Heart attack sudden, right in this very kitchen. Tommy was 26 then, just married to his wife, Karen, with Lily on the way. I sold George's old hardware store to pay for Tommy's house down payment. I babysat Lily and Max so Karen could go back to work. I baked cookies for their school fundraisers, cheered at their soccer games, even when my arthritis made it hard to climb the bleachers. And now this? Declaring me unfit, like I was some burden to be managed? The backyard. A memory resurfaces. I sank into the wicker chair on my back porch, the one George used to sit in while reading the Sunday paper. The air was cool, but my face burned with anger and shame. I thought back to last Thanksgiving, right here in this backyard. The kids were running around chasing Muffin while Tommy and Karen sat at the picnic table whispering. I'd overheard Karen say, "The house is worth at least $300,000 now, Tommy, and her savings, we could pay off the business loan." I didn't think much of it then, just daughter-in-law chatter about money troubles. Tommy's construction company had been struggling, I knew that. But I brushed it off, thinking they'd never ask me to sell my home. This was where George proposed, where we raised Tommy, where I still felt my husband's presence in every creak of the floorboards. But now those whispers took on a darker meaning. Was this their plan all along? To take everything? I pulled out my old diary from the cedar chest in my bedroom, the one I've kept since I was a girl. I flipped to an entry from 1980 when Tommy was 3. Tommy climbed into my lap today, his little hands sticky with jam, and said, "Mama, I love you forever. I'll hold on to that forever too." Tears stung my eyes. Where was that boy now? Had I failed him somehow? Or had life, his failing business, Karen's pressure, the weight of raising 2 kids, changed him into someone I didn't recognize? The first clue: a visit from Lily. A few days after the bank's call, my granddaughter Lily, 19, and in her first year at Ohio State, showed up at my door. It was a Saturday, the kind of day she'd usually be studying or out with friends. Her brown eyes, so much like George's, were red-rimmed like she'd been crying. "Grandma," she said, hugging me tight, "I need to tell you something, but I'm scared." We sat on the couch, muffin curling up between us, and she spilled it all. Lily had overheard her parents arguing in their garage 2 weeks ago. Tommy was pacing, his voice sharp, saying, "If we don't get control of Mum's money, we're done, Karen. The bank's calling in the loan." Karen snapped back, "Then do it, Tommy. She's old, she won't notice. Just get the power of attorney and be done with it." Lily said she wanted to tell me right away, but was afraid of betraying her dad. "I love him, Grandma," she whispered, "but this isn't right. You're not what they're saying." My heart broke for her, caught between her parents and me. I hugged her, told her she did the right thing, but inside, I was reeling. Tommy wasn't just desperate, he was scheming, and Karen was pushing him. I thought of the grandkids' trust fund, the one I'd set up with George's life insurance money. Was that their target too? I couldn't let them take it, not just for me, but for Lily and Max. They deserved better than this. The plan begins: a visit to the bank. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my rocking chair, the one George made for me when I was pregnant with Tommy, and thought about my options. I could confront Tommy, but what good would that do? He'd deny it, or worse, gaslight me into thinking I was losing my mind. No, I needed proof. I needed to protect myself, my home, my grandkids' future. So, I called my old friend Margaret, who'd been a paralegal before she retired. Over tea in her cosy living room, with her cuckoo clock ticking in the background, I told her everything. Margaret's eyes narrowed. "Evelyn, you need a lawyer, and you need to be smart about this." She recommended Laura Bennett, a sharp attorney who specialised in elder law. Laura's office was small, with a view of the town square where the Christmas lights were already going up. She listened to my story, her pen tapping against her notepad. "Mrs. Harper, this sounds like financial elder abuse. We need evidence, and we need to act fast before he transfers your assets." She suggested I visit the bank, request a copy of the power of attorney document, and see if Tommy had already made any moves. But here's where Laura got clever. "Wear a small recorder," she said. "If Tommy or anyone else tries to manipulate you, we'll have it on tape." I wasn't sure about the recorder at first. It felt sneaky, like something out of a spy movie. But then I thought of Tommy standing in that bank, lying about me, and my resolve hardened. I went to the electronics store and bought a tiny device, no bigger than a pack of gum, that could clip inside my purse. I practiced using it in my living room, whispering, "Testing, testing," while Muffin stared at me like I'd lost my mind. Maybe I was a little crazy enough to fight for what was mine. The bank confrontation, October 2025. The day I walked into First National Bank, the air was thick with the smell of polished wood and coffee. My heart pounded as I approached Susan, the manager, who'd been kind enough to call me that first day. I wore my best navy dress, the one I saved for church, and my purse with the recorder clipped inside. Laura was with me, her briefcase swinging confidently. Susan's eyes widened when she saw us. "Mrs. Harper, I'm so glad you're here," she said, ushering us into her office. I asked to see the power of attorney document. Susan hesitated, then slid a folder across her desk. There it was. A form with Tommy's signature, a doctor's note claiming I had diminished capacity, and a notary stamp that looked suspiciously fresh. My hands shook as I read it. The doctor's name was unfamiliar, Dr. Richard Klein, with an office in Cincinnati, an hour away. I'd never been to Cincinnati in my life. Laura's jaw tightened. "This is fraud, Mrs. Harper. We'll need to subpoena the doctor's records." That's when my phone buzzed. It was Tommy, calling from the parking lot. "Mum, where are you? I'm at the bank. We need to talk." My stomach dropped. Laura nodded, whispering, "Turn on the recorder." I did, my fingers fumbling, and told Susan to let him in. Tommy walked in, his face pale, his construction boots scuffing the carpet. He didn't expect to see Laura. "Mum, what's this?" he asked, his voice tight. I looked at him, my boy, now a man with lines on his face and secrets in his eyes. "Tommy," I said, my voice steady, "why did you tell the bank I'm unfit? Why did you forge a doctor's note?" His mouth opened, then closed, like a fish gasping for air. "Mum, I was trying to protect you. You're getting older and—" "Stop," I said, my voice breaking. "Don't lie to me. Not here. Not now." Laura stepped in, her tone calm but firm. "Mr. Harper, we have evidence of fraud. You submitted a falsified power of attorney to seize your mother's assets. That's a felony." Tommy's face crumpled, and for a moment, I saw the boy who used to cry when he fell off his bike. But then he straightened, his voice cold. "You don't understand, Mum. The business is failing. Karen and I, we needed the money. You weren't using it." How would Evelyn respond to her son's confession? I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. My own son admitting he tried to take everything, not out of love, but out of greed. I wanted to scream, to shake him, to ask where I went wrong. But I stayed calm, the recorder catching every word. "Tommy," I said, tears in my eyes, "this house, this money, it's not just mine. It's for Lily and Max. It's what your father and I worked for. How could you?" He didn't answer. He just stared at the floor, his hands clenched. Laura took over, explaining that we'd be filing a police report and contesting the power of attorney. Susan, the bank manager, promised to freeze my accounts until the matter was resolved. As we left the bank, Tommy called after me, "Mum, please, I'm sorry." But I didn't turn back. Not yet. The lawyer's office, digging deeper, back at Laura's office, we listened to the recording. Tommy's voice, clear as day, admitting to the fraud. Laura said it was enough to press charges, but she warned me, "Evelyn, this could tear your family apart. Are you sure you want to go through with it?" I thought of Lily, her tearful confession, and Max, only 15, who still called me Gram and hugged me tight. I thought of George, who trusted me to protect our legacy. "I have to," I said. "Not just for me, but for them." Laura hired a private investigator to track down Dr. Richard Klein. Turns out he wasn't a doctor at all, just a friend of Karen's cousin who'd lost his medical license years ago for prescribing pills illegally. The notary was another fake, a woman who worked at Tommy's construction office. The deeper we dug, the uglier it got. Tommy hadn't just acted on impulse. This was a calculated plan, months in the making. Thanksgiving, the family showdown. Thanksgiving arrived, cold and grey, the kind of day that makes you want to stay inside with a warm blanket. I invited Tommy, Karen, Lily and Max over like always. I set the table with my mother's china, roasted a turkey and baked the pecan pie, even though my heart wasn't in it. I needed to see them, to look into their eyes and understand why. The dinner started quietly, the clink of silverware loud against the tension. Lily kept glancing at me, her eyes nervous, while Max played with his mashed potatoes. Karen barely looked up, her face tight. Tommy tried to make small talk, asking about my roses, but I couldn't take it anymore. I set down my fork, my voice steady but firm. "Tommy, Karen, we need to talk about the bank. The room went silent. Max looked up, confused. Lily gripped her napkin. Karen's fork froze mid-air. Tommy's face paled. Mum, not now, he muttered, but I pressed on. You tried to take my money, my home, everything. You lied about me, said I was unfit. I have proof, Tommy. I recorded you at the bank. Karen gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Tommy's eyes widened. You recorded me? Yes, I said, my voice shaking with emotion. I raised you to be honest, to work hard, like your father did. But you broke my trust. You broke my heart. Lily started to cry, and Max looked between us, his young face crumpled. Karen stood, her chair scraping the floor. Evelyn, we were desperate. The business, the debts, you don't understand. I looked at her, my daughter-in-law, who'd once called me Mom, with a smile. I understand desperation, I said, but I don't understand betrayal. Would Evelyn forgive them or seek justice? The courtroom, facing the truth. Laura filed the fraud case in early December. The courtroom was cold, the wooden benches hard under my aching hips. Tommy sat across from me, his lawyer whispering in his ear. Karen wasn't there. She'd left town, staying with her sister, claiming she needed space. Lily and Max sat behind me, their presence a quiet strength. The judge, a stern woman with grey hair, listened as Laura presented the recording, the fake doctor's note, the notary's confession. Tommy's lawyer argued he was under financial stress, that he meant no harm, but the evidence was overwhelming. When it was my turn to speak, I stood, my hands gripping the podium. Your Honour, I said, my voice trembling, Tommy's my only son. I love him more than life itself. But what he did wasn't just about money. It was about trust. He tried to take my dignity, my independence. I'm 76, but I'm not done living. I'm not done fighting for what's right. The courtroom was silent, except for Tommy's quiet sobs. I looked at him, my heart breaking all over again, but I didn't back down. The judge ruled in my favour. The power of attorney was voided, my accounts unfrozen, and Tommy was ordered to pay a fine and complete community service. No jail time, which was a relief and a pain all at once. I didn't want him locked up, but I wanted him to understand the weight of what he'd done. The aftermath, a fragile peace. Christmas came, and I spent it alone, save for Lily and Max, who brought me a homemade card and a new rosebush for my garden. Tommy called, his voice thick with regret. Mum, I'm sorry, I was wrong. Can we talk? I told him to come over, and we sat in the living room, the Christmas tree lights casting a soft glow. He told me about the business, the pressure from Karen, the fear of losing everything. I thought I was protecting my family, he said, tears in his eyes, but I hurt you instead. I listened, my heart torn between love and hurt. Tommy, I said, I forgive you, but trust takes time to rebuild. Start by being honest, with me, with yourself, with your kids. He nodded, promising to try. I didn't know if we'd ever be the same, but I held on to hope like I always had. The new beginning, spring 2026. By spring, my roses were blooming again, brighter than ever. I'd updated my will, ensuring Lily and Max's trust fund was untouchable. Tommy started therapy, and we began meeting for coffee once a week, small steps toward healing. Karen sent a letter apologizing, but I wasn't ready to see her yet. Maybe someday. I sat in my backyard, Muffin purring in my lap, and thought about George. He'd be proud of me, I think, for standing up, for fighting, for loving even when it hurt. I wasn't just a mother or a grandmother. I was Evelyn Harper, and I was still here, still strong, still me. I've told you my story, dear, not to make you sad, but to remind you that family is messy, love is complicated, and strength comes from standing up for what's right, even when it breaks your heart. I'm still learning, still growing, even at 76. And I hope you are too. The quiet after the storm, spring 2026. The spring sun warmed my backyard, where I knelt in the dirt, planting the new rose bush Lily and Max had given me for Christmas. The petals were a soft pink, like the blush on my cheeks when George used to kiss me goodnight. I could almost hear his voice, low and steady, saying, "Evie, you're tougher than you know." I needed that toughness now, more than ever. Tommy's betrayal had left a scar, one that didn't show on my skin but ached deep in my chest. Every time I looked at the scratched THE on my kitchen table, I felt it, the love, the hurt, the question of whether I could ever trust my son again. Lily stopped by that afternoon, her college backpack slung over one shoulder. She sat cross-legged on the grass, picking at a dandelion. "Grandma," she said, her voice soft, "Dad's been different lately. Quieter. He's been asking about you, but he's scared to push too hard." I dusted the dirt off my hands, looking at her. Those eyes, so like George's, held a mix of hope and worry. "Lily, honey," I said, "I love your father, but love doesn't erase what he did. Not yet." She nodded, understanding more than a 19-year-old should have to. I wondered what kind of weight she carried, caught between her parents and me. A letter from the past, the cedar chest. That evening, after Lily left, I pulled out my cedar chest again. It was an old thing, carved by George's father, smelling of wood and memories. Inside were photo albums, George's old flannel shirt, and my diaries, decades of my life scribbled in faded ink. I was looking for something, though I wasn't sure what. Maybe a clue to where I'd lost Tommy, or where he'd lost himself. I found a letter, tucked in the back of a diary from 1990, when Tommy was 13. It was in his messy, boyish handwriting, written for a school assignment. "My mum is my hero. She makes me pancakes and never gets mad when I forget my chores. I want to be strong like her someday." I sat on the floor, the letter trembling in my hands. Tears blurred the words. That boy, the one who thought I was a hero, was still in there somewhere, wasn't he? But the man he'd become had let desperation and Karen's whispers turn him into someone who'd hurt his own mother. I folded the letter carefully, placing it back in the chest. I wasn't ready to give up on him, but I wasn't ready to let him back in completely either. Coffee with Tommy. A tentative step. Our first coffee meeting was awkward, like strangers trying to remember how to talk. We met at Millie's Diner, the one on Main Street with the red vinyl booths and the jukebox that still played Elvis. Tommy looked older than his 48 years, his hair greying at the temples, his hands fidgeting with a sugar packet. "Mum," he started, his voice low. "I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. I didn't know what else to do." I sipped my coffee, the bitterness matching my mood. "Tommy," I said, "you could have talked to me. You could have told me about the business, the debts. Instead, you lied. You made me feel like I was nothing." He flinched, like I'd slapped him. "I didn't mean it like that," he said. "Karen kept saying we needed to secure the future, for the kids, for us. I thought I was doing the right thing." I looked at him, my son, and saw the boy who'd once carved his initials in my table. "The right thing," I said softly, "doesn't involve stealing from your mother." He nodded, his eyes wet. "I'm trying, Mum. I'm in therapy. I'm working on the business, trying to fix it without hurting anyone." I didn't say much after that. I just listened, letting his words settle, hoping they were true. The nursing home visit, a friend's warning. A week later, I visited my old friend Dorothy at the Sunset Hills nursing home. She'd been my neighbour for 30 years, until her kids moved her into care after a fall. The home smelled of antiseptic and overcooked vegetables, and Dorothy's room was small but bright, with photos of her grandkids taped to the wall. Over tea from a thermos I'd brought, she grabbed my hand, her grip surprisingly strong. "Evelyn," she said, her blue eyes sharp, "don't let them push you around. My kids tried to sell my house out from under me, saying it was for my own good. You fought back. Keep fighting." Her words hit hard. Dorothy's kids had convinced her to sign over her finances, claiming it was easier for them to manage her care. Now, she had nothing but a monthly allowance and a room in this place. I thought of Tommy, of Karen's whispers, and a chill ran through me. Was that their plan? To ease me out of my home, into a place like this, where I'd be out of the way. I hugged Dorothy tight, promising to visit again, and left with a fire in my belly. I wasn't going anywhere. The investigator's report, a deeper betrayal. Laura called me to her office a few days later. The private investigator had dug up more dirt, and it was worse than I'd imagined. The fake Dr. Klein wasn't just a one-time favor for Karen's cousin. He'd been paid $5,000 from Tommy's business account to forge the medical report. And Karen? She'd been meeting with a real estate agent, quietly getting appraisals for my house, even before the bank incident. They'd planned to sell it, split the money, and pay off their debts, all while telling me I'd be better off in a senior living facility. I sat in Laura's office, staring at the photos of my grandkids on my phone, trying to process it. My house wasn't just a building. It was where George and I danced to Sinatra in the living room, where Tommy took his first steps, where Lily and Max painted Easter eggs at the kitchen table. And they wanted to take it, like it was nothing more than a line item on a balance sheet. Laura leaned forward, her voice gentle but firm. "Evelyn, we can add this to the fraud case. It's enough to pursue criminal charges against Karen too, but you need to decide how far you want to go." I didn't answer right away. I thought of Max, only 15, who still hugged me like I was his safe place. If I went after Karen, what would it do to him, to Lily, to the family we had left? But then I thought of Dorothy, trapped in that nursing home, her voice echoing, "Keep fighting." I took a deep breath. "Let's do it," I said. "But make sure the kids are protected. Their trust fund stays untouched." The family meeting, lines drawn. I called a family meeting at my house, not for dinner this time, but for truth. It was a Saturday, the air heavy with the promise of rain. Tommy, Lily, and Max sat in my living room, the couch sagging under the weight of our history. Karen had declined to come, saying she was too busy, but I knew she was avoiding me. I stood by the fireplace, where George's old clock ticked steadily, and laid it all out: the investigator's report, the fake doctor, the real estate agent. Lily gasped, covering her mouth. Max looked confused, his young face crumpling. Tommy's head dropped into his hands. "I'm not doing this to hurt you," I said, my voice shaking. "I'm doing this to protect what's ours, mine, yours, your kids. This house, this money, it's not just about me. It's about your father's legacy, about the future I want for Lily and Max." Tommy looked up, his eyes red. "Mum, I didn't know about the real estate agent. That was Karen's idea, I swear." I wanted to believe him, but the recorder in my purse was running just in case. "Then prove it," I said. "Help Laura, tell the truth, all of it." Lily reached for my hand, her voice small. "Grandma, I'm so sorry. I should have told you sooner." I squeezed her hand, my heart aching for her. "You did enough, sweetheart. You're here now." Max, quiet until then, spoke up, his voice cracking. "Are we gonna lose you, Gram?" I knelt in front of him, ignoring the ache in my knees. "Never, Max. You'll always have me." The second court date, Karen's reckoning. The second court date was in June, the courtroom hotter than the last, the air thick with tension. Karen showed up this time, her face pale, her lawyer whispering nervously. Laura presented the new evidence, the bank records, the real estate agent's emails, the payment to the fake doctor. Karen's lawyer tried to pin it all on Tommy, claiming she was just following his lead, but the judge wasn't buying it. Neither was I. When Karen took the stand, she avoided my eyes, her voice shaky. "I was just trying to help our family," she said, her hands twisting a tissue. "We were drowning in debt." I wanted to feel sorry for her, but all I could see was the woman who'd plotted to sell my home, to strip me of my independence. The judge ruled that Karen had knowingly participated in the fraud. She was fined heavily and ordered to complete probation. Tommy, already on community service, escaped further punishment, but the look in his eyes told me he was paying a different kind of price. As we left the courtroom, Tommy caught my arm. "Mum, I'm done with her," he said, his voice low. "I told Karen we need to separate. I can't live with someone who'd do this to you." I looked at him, searching for the truth in his eyes. Was this another promise he'd break, or was my boy finally coming back to me? Summer 2026, a new normal. By summer, life had settled into a fragile new rhythm. Tommy moved into a small apartment, working odd jobs to keep his business afloat without Karen's influence. He came by every Sunday, not for pancakes, but for talks. Slow, careful conversations about the past, the future, and the trust we were trying to rebuild. Lily graduated her first year of college, her smile brighter than it had been in months. Max started spending weekends with me, helping in the garden, his laughter filling the quiet spaces George used to fill. I sat in my backyard one evening, Muffin purring in my lap, the rosebush blooming fiercely. I thought of Dorothy, of the women like us who'd been pushed aside, their voices ignored. I'd fought back, not just for me but for them, for Lily, for Max. I wasn't just Evelyn Harper, the widow, the mother, the grandmother. I was a woman who'd stood her ground, who'd reminded her son that love doesn't justify betrayal, but it can lead to redemption. The Sunday talks, rebuilding trust. The summer of 2026 stretched on, warm and heavy, with cicadas humming in the evenings. Every Sunday, Tommy would pull up in his old pickup truck, the one George used to drive, and we'd sit at my kitchen table, the scratched TH, a silent witness to our talks. I'd pour him coffee, black, the way he liked it, and we'd start slow. Weather, the roses, Max's latest soccer game. But eventually, the real stuff came up, like water seeping through cracks in a dam. One Sunday, he brought a box of old photos, ones he'd found in his apartment after Karen moved out. They were from the 80s, me and George at Tommy's Little League games, me in my apron flipping pancakes, Tommy grinning with a missing tooth. "I forgot how happy we were," he said, his voice rough. "I messed it up, Mum. Not just with the bank, but everything." I looked at him, my boy, now a man with shadows under his eyes. "You didn't mess it all up," I said softly. "You're here now. That's a start." But trust is a fragile thing, like the china teacups I inherited from my mother. One wrong move, and it shatters again. I kept my guard up, watching for signs he was truly changing. He'd started working with a new contractor, taking smaller jobs to rebuild his business without loans or lies. He'd show me receipts, bank statements, proof he was staying honest. I didn't ask for them, but he brought them anyway, like a kid showing his report card, hoping for approval. I nodded, sipped my coffee, and listened. I wasn't ready to hand him my heart again, but I was willing to let him earn it. Max's confession, a grandson's heart. One Saturday in August, Max showed up alone, his soccer cleats muddy from practice. He was taller now, almost 16, his voice cracking between boy and man. We sat on the back porch, sharing a plate of my oatmeal cookies, the kind George used to sneak before dinner. Max was quiet, kicking at the porch rail, until he blurted, "Gram, I knew Dad was in trouble, but I didn't know he'd hurt you." His eyes, wide and guilty, broke my heart. I heard him and Mum fighting about money, but I thought they'd fix it without doing something so bad. I reached for his hand, his fingers calloused from kicking balls and carrying dreams. "Max, honey, you didn't do anything wrong. You're a kid. This was their mess, not yours." He shook his head, tears spilling. "But I should have told you, like Lily did. I was scared Dad would get mad." I pulled him into a hug, his head resting on my shoulder like when he was little. "You're telling me now," I said. "That's what matters, and I'm not going anywhere, you hear me?" He nodded, sniffling, and I held him tighter, vowing to protect him from the fallout of his parents' choices. That night, I wrote in my diary, something I hadn't done in months. "Max is growing up too fast, carrying burdens he shouldn't. George, if you're watching, help me keep him safe. Help me keep them all safe." I closed the book, my heart heavy but determined. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about the kids, their future, their trust in the world. A visit from Karen, an unexpected apology. In early September, Karen showed up at my door unannounced. It was a Tuesday, the sky grey with rain clouds, and I was in my garden pruning the roses. She stood on the porch, her hair pulled back, her hands twisting nervously. "Evelyn," she said, her voice small, "can we talk?" I wiped my hands on my apron, my heart racing. I hadn't seen her since the courtroom, hadn't heard from her since her letter. Part of me wanted to slam the door, but another part, the part that still remembered her as the young woman who'd cried at George's funeral, let her in. We sat in the living room, Muffin eyeing her warily from the couch. Karen didn't waste time. "I'm sorry," she said, her eyes meeting mine for the first time. "I pushed Tommy. I was scared, desperate. The business was failing, the bank was calling, and I thought taking control was the only way out." Her voice cracked, but I stayed quiet, letting her speak. "I was wrong, Evelyn. I hurt you, and I hurt the kids. I'm moving to my sister's in Indiana, starting over. I won't fight the separation, I needed you to know I'm sorry." I studied her, the woman who'd been my daughter-in-law for 20 years. I remembered her helping me bake Lily's first birthday cake, her laughter at Thanksgiving dinners. But I also remembered her whispers in the garage, her signature on those real estate emails. "Karen," I said, my voice steady, "I hear you. But sorry doesn't erase what you did. You tried to take my home, my life. I forgive you, because that's what I was raised to do, but I won't forget." She nodded, tears falling, and left without another word. As her car pulled away, I felt a weight lift, but not entirely. Forgiveness is a choice, not a feeling, and I was still working on it. The lawyer's update securing the future. Laura called me the next week, her voice brisk but warm. "Evelyn, we've got everything locked down," she said. The trust fund for Lily and Max was now ironclad, protected by legal safeguards no one could touch. My house was in a living trust, ensuring it would pass to the kids if anything happened to me. The bank had updated their records, flagging any future attempts to challenge my accounts. "You're safe," Laura said, "and you were smart to fight this." I thanked her, my voice catching. "Laura, you gave me back my dignity." She laughed softly. "Evelyn, you never lost it." After we hung up, I sat in my rocking chair, Muffin curled in my lap, and thought about what I'd gained, not just my money, my home, but my strength. I'd always been the quiet one, the one who baked pies and mended clothes. But now, I was the one who'd stood up to her own son, who'd walked into a bank with a hidden recorder and a heart full of fire. Thanksgiving 2026, a new table. Thanksgiving came again, and this time the air was lighter, though not without its shadows. I set the table with the same china, roasted a smaller turkey and baked 2 pies, 1 pecan, 1 pumpkin, because Max loved both. Tommy came, alone, his smile tentative but genuine. Lily brought a friend from college, a shy girl named Mia, who complimented my roses. Max helped me carve the turkey, his hands steadier than last year. Karen was in Indiana, and though her absence left a hole, it also left room for healing. After dinner, we sat in the backyard, the kids sipping hot cocoa, Tommy nursing a beer. The fairy lights I'd strung up twinkled against the dusk. "Mum," Tommy said, his voice low so the kids wouldn't hear, "I'm selling the business. It's not worth the stress, the mistakes I made. I'm starting over, maybe as a foreman somewhere. I want to make you proud again." I looked at him, my son, and saw a glimmer of the boy who'd written that letter all those years ago. "You already are," I said, my voice soft. "Just keep being honest." Lily and Max laughed nearby, chasing fireflies like they used to. I watched them, my heart full. This was what I'd fought for. Not just a house, not just money, but moments like this, where love still had a chance to grow. The diary entry, a reflection. That night, I wrote in my diary, the cedar chest open beside me. George, I think we're going to be okay. Tommy's trying, the kids are growing, and I'm still here, still me. I fought for our family and I'd do it again. I hope you're smiling wherever you are. I closed the book, my fingers tracing the worn leather. The pain of the last year hadn't vanished, but it had softened, like a bruise fading into skin. I was learning to live with it, to let love and justice coexist. Autumn Winds of Change, October 2026. As October rolled in, the leaves in my backyard turned a fiery red, like the anger I'd felt a year ago, now softened by time and the cool breeze. It was exactly 1 year since that fateful bank call, and I'd marked it quietly. No fanfare, just a cup of tea on the porch, and a long stare at the horizon. Tommy had called that morning, his voice tentative over the line. "Mum, can I come by? I've got something for you." I hesitated, my fingers tightening around the phone. Trust was like these leaves, beautiful but quick to fall if the wind turned wrong. "Of course, Tommy," I said. "The door's always open." He arrived with a small wooden box, sanded smooth, the kind George used to make for special occasions. Inside was a new diary, leather-bound, with a lock and key. "For your stories," he said, sitting at the kitchen table, his hands folded like he was in confession. "I know I can't erase what I did, but I want to listen to your stories again. Really listen." I traced the cover, my eyes misting. It wasn't the grand gesture that moved me. It was the thought, the effort. "Thank you," I whispered, unlocking it and flipping to the first blank page. We sat there, the clock ticking, and for the first time in months, the silence felt companionable, not charged. But life doesn't heal in straight lines. That afternoon, Lily called, her voice breathless from campus. "Grandma, Dad's dating someone. Some woman from his new job. Is that okay? I mean, after Mum." She trailed off, and I could picture her biting her lip, the way she did when worried. I leaned against the counter, the diary still in my lap. "Lily, your father's life is his own now. As long as he's honest about it. With you, with Max, with me. That's what matters." She sighed in relief, but I hung up feeling a pang. Karen's shadow lingered, not in anger, but in the what-ifs. What if Tommy rushed into something new, repeating old mistakes? I pushed the thought away, locking the diary and heading to the garden. The roses needed tending, and so did I. A drive to Dorothy's, echoes of strength. The next day I packed a thermos of tea and drove to Sunset Hills nursing home, the Buick rumbling along the familiar country roads lined with cornfields turning gold. Dorothy was waiting in the lobby, her wheelchair by the window, a puzzle half done on the table beside her. "Evelyn Harper, as I live and breathe," she said, her grin wide despite the oxygen tube under her nose. We wheeled out to the garden patio, where the late sun warmed the benches, and I poured her a cup, strong and sweet, just how she liked. "Tell me about your boy," she said, her eyes twinkling. I told her everything, the betrayal, the courtroom, the tentative coffees, the new diary. She listened, nodding, her gnarled hands wrapped around the thermos. "Sounds like he's waking up," she said. "My Harold was the same after his heart scare, stubborn as a mule, but he learned. You did good fighting back. Most women our age just fold." Her words wrapped around me like a quilt. Dorothy had lost her home to her kids' help, but she hadn't lost her spirit. "What about you?" I asked. "Any visits from the vultures?" She chuckled, a raspy sound. "My son sent a check last month. Guilt money. I framed it. Reminds me I won." We sat until the sun dipped low, talking about old times. Bridge games, church suppers, the way men like George and Harold made us laugh even on rainy days. As I helped her back inside, she squeezed my arm. "Don't let go of that fire, Evelyn. It's what keeps us young." Driving home, windows down, the wind whipping my hair, I felt it, that fire, banked but burning. Dorothy was right. I wasn't folding. Not now, not ever. Max's birthday, a milestone moment. Max turned 16 in November, and we celebrated at my house, balloons bobbing in the living room like colourful memories floating up. Tommy grilled burgers in the backyard, the smoke curling lazy into the crisp air, while Lily strung lights across the porch. Max wanted a simple party. No big bash, just family, his soccer buddies, and my chocolate cake with extra frosting. As he blew out the candles, his wish whispered under his breath. I caught Tommy's eye across the table. He mouthed, "Thank you, Mum." And for a moment I saw us whole again, the family we used to be. Later, after the boys left and Lily headed to her room to study, Max pulled me aside in the kitchen. "Gram," he said, his voice deeper now. "I got my learner's permit. Can you teach me to drive? Like you did, Dad?" My heart swelled, remembering those afternoons with Tommy, white-knuckling the wheel on back roads, me yelling, "Eyes on the road, not your feet." I nodded, tears pricking. "Tomorrow, kiddo. We'll take the Buick, nice and slow." He hugged me fierce, his arms strong, and whispered, "I love you. You're the best." In that hug, I felt the future, Max behind the wheel, Lily in college, Tommy healing. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. Tommy lingered after Max went to bed, washing dishes side by side, the water running warm over our hands. "He's a good kid," Tommy said, scrubbing a plate. "Because of you, Mom, you and Dad." I dried, the towel soft from years of use. "We all had a hand in it, including you." He paused, suds dripping. "I'm trying not to screw it up again." I laid a hand on his shoulder, feeling the tension there. "I know. And I'm here, Tommy. Always." We didn't say more, but as he left, the porch light glowing behind him, I felt a shift, like the first crack of dawn after a long night. The hidden letter, Karen's final words. Winter crept in with snow flurries, blanketing my garden in white hush. One morning, as I shoveled the walk, the mailman handed me a plain envelope, no return address. Inside was a letter from Karen, her handwriting neat, deliberate. "Evelyn, I've been in Indiana 6 months now, working at a library, finding my feet. I replay that day at your door 100 times, wishing I could take it back. I wasn't always the villain. I loved Tommy, loved the kids, even loved our Thanksgivings. But fear made me small. I'm divorcing him for good this time. Tell Lily and Max I love them, if you will. And tell them their grandma's the strongest woman I know. Be well." I sat on the porch steps, the cold seeping through my coat, reading it twice. No excuses, no pleas, just truth and goodbye. Part of me ached for the family we'd lost, the daughter-in-law who'd become a stranger. But another part felt release, like shedding an old coat too tight. I folded the letter into my new diary, next to Tommy's gift note. Forgiveness wasn't forgetting, it was letting go enough to breathe. That evening, I shared it with Tommy over phone, neutral ground. "She's moving on," I said. He was quiet then. "Good for her. I've been seeing Sarah from work. She's kind, Mum. Reminds me of you, strong, no nonsense." I smiled into the receiver. "Bring her by sometime, I'll make pie." His laugh, genuine and light, warmed me more than the fire in the hearth. The driving lesson, lessons in life. The next weekend, Max and I took the Buick out, the engine purring as we hit the empty county road. Snow dusted the fields, sparkling under the weak sun. "Okay, feet off the pedals except the brake," I said, buckling in the passenger seat, my hands clasped to hide the nerves. Max gripped the wheel, his knuckles white, just like Tommy at that age. "Gram, what if I mess up?" he asked, easing the gas. The car lurched, then smoothed. "Everyone messes up, Max," I said, watching the road. "Your dad did, big time, but he's learning from it. You will too." We drove slow, talking about school, girls, his dreams of college soccer. He confessed he was scared about the divorce, about picking sides. "You don't pick sides, honey," I said as we turned onto a straightaway. "You pick love. And you've got plenty, me, your dad, Lily, even your mum in her way." He nodded, accelerating a touch, confidence blooming. By the end, we were laughing. Windows cracked, singing along to the old radio, crooning Patsy Cline. Pulling back into the driveway, Max turned to me, eyes shining. "Thanks, Gram. For everything." I ruffled his hair. Anytime. Now park her straight. He did. Perfect. And in that moment I saw George in his grin, the legacy living on. Christmas lights and new lights. Christmas 2026 arrived gentle, with a light snow that turned the world soft. Tommy brought Sarah, a quiet woman with warm brown eyes and a laugh like wind chimes. We decorated the tree together, Lily teasing Max about his lopsided ornaments, Tommy hanging George's old star at the top. Sarah helped in the kitchen, chopping onions without tears, listening as I told stories of past holidays, George burning the ham one year, Tommy hiding gifts under his bed. Dinner was simple: roast chicken, mashed potatoes, my cranberry relish. As we passed plates, Tommy raised his glass. "To Mom," he said, his voice thick, "for teaching us what family really means." Eyes met around the table and I felt it, not the family of before, but a new one, forged in fire and forgiveness. Sarah squeezed my hand under the table. "Evelyn, thank you for letting me in." I smiled. "Welcome, dear. There's always room." Later, as lights twinkled and carols played low, Lily and Max curled on the couch with hot cocoa. I slipped outside. The snow fell silent, and I whispered to the stars, "George, we're okay. Better than okay." Inside, laughter spilled out, and I joined them, my heart full. Spring awakening 2027, spring 2027 burst forth, my roses pushing through the soil like promises kept. Tommy's business, now a small handyman service, thrived, steady jobs, no debts hanging like swords. He and Sarah moved in together, a cosy place downtown, and Lily visited often, bringing stories of classes and a new beau. Max aced driver's ed, his confidence growing like weeds in the garden. One May morning, as I sipped coffee on the porch, Tommy pulled up, a grin splitting his face. "Mum, come see." He led me to the backyard, where a new bench sat under the rose arbour, planked wood, engraved, "For Evelyn, the heart of us all. Love, Tommy." I traced the letters, tears flowing free. "It's perfect," I said, hugging him tight. "You're perfect." We sat there, talking dreams, his, mine, the kids. "I was so lost," he admitted, "thinking money fixed everything, but you showed me it's us, always us." I nodded, the sun warm on our faces. Betrayal had cracked us, but love had mended, stronger, more beautiful. The full circle, summer gathering, summer brought a backyard barbecue, the air thick with grill smoke and joy. Lily brought her boyfriend, a polite engineering student who complimented my pie. Max kicked a soccer ball with neighbourhood kids, his laughter echoing. Sarah flipped burgers, fitting seamless, while Tommy manned the coals, sweat beading on his brow. As dusk fell, we gathered around the fire pit, s'mores sticky on fingers, stories weaving like smoke. "Remember the bank?" Tommy said softly, to me alone. I nodded, the memory sharp but distant. "I do. And I remember walking in with that lawyer, heart pounding, but head high." He took my hand. "You saved us, Mum. Saved me." I looked around the circle, faces I loved, bonds reforged, and knew he was right. Justice hadn't just come in a courtroom, it came in these moments, in the slow rebuild of trust. Reflections in the diary. A year's end. By fall, my diary brimmed, pages of pain turned to pages of peace. I wrote of Dorothy's passing, gentle in her sleep, her funeral a testament to the friends she'd touched. I wrote of Lily's engagement, a simple ring glinting as she hugged me. Of Max's first job, mowing lawns, pockets full of earned cash. Of Tommy and Sarah's wedding plans, small and sweet. "George," I scrawled one night, lamplight soft. "We made it through the storm. The family's different, but the love's the same, deeper maybe. Thank you for the strength you left me. I hope Tommy sees it in himself now." I locked the diary, key around my neck, and slept sound, dreams of roses and laughter. The unexpected visitor, a loose end. Tide in December, a knock came mid-blizzard. Karen, coat dusted white, eyes weary but clear. "Evelyn," she said, breath fogging, "I'm in town for the kids' holiday concert. Can I see them? Just for a minute?" I stepped aside, no words at first, the fire crackling welcome. She warmed by the hearth, glancing at photos on the mantel. Us all. Pre-betrayal. The kids arrived soon. Hugs awkward but real. Lily teared up. Max fist bumped shyly. Tommy hung back but nodded when Karen whispered sorry. No long talks, just presence. A bridge rebuilt, tentative. As she left, she paused. "You're a better mother-in-law than I deserved." I smiled faint. "We all deserve second chances, Karen. Merry Christmas." New Year's dawn, 2028, New Year's Eve. We watched the ball drop on TV, champagne flutes bubbling, non-alcoholic for me, traditions bending gentle. Tommy clinked my glass. "To new beginnings, Mum." Lily and Max cheered, Sarah beaming. Outside, fireworks popped, lighting the snow. As midnight struck, I made a wish, not for the past, but the now. Health, laughter, the quiet strength to keep fighting when needed. The year ahead stretched open, full of possibility. I'd underestimated myself once, but no more. I was Evelyn Harper, mother, fighter, heart of this patched-together family. Oh, dear listener, if my story's taught me anything, it's this. Family isn't perfect. It's a garden, full of weeds, storms and blooms that surprise you. Betrayal cuts deep, but love, true love, roots stronger. Don't let anyone declare you unfit. Not your mind, not your heart, not your fight. Stand tall, gather your proof, your people, and walk into that bank, that courtroom, that hard conversation with your head high. You're stronger than you know, just like I learned I was. Hold on to your roses, your diaries, your grandkids' hugs. Life's too precious to hand over quietly. Thank you for listening, dear. Please don't forget to like this video, share it with your loved ones, and subscribe to our channel for more heart-touching grandma stories that stay with you forever.